Right, we're now moving on to the main agenda. So we're going to start with the skills session, and typically, usual thing with skills, we're going to play your video.
Potential. Everyone's got potential, right? But it will remain just that unless you act on it. You've got to do something new.
You got this.
To get somewhere new.
Let me see. Have a look.
Is it scary?
You'll be fine.
Sure. But potential never fades. It simply waits for the day you use it. So go on, make that one day today.
Whether you're growing your business,
Okay, can we take our seats, please?
switching careers, or just starting out, it all starts with skills. Search Skills for Life.
Thank you, and that's a government video, and actually I think it actually captures the essence of the skills work that we do. So I'd now like to invite Judy Gibbs, who's the Director of Skills at the LEP and the Skills Investment Manager at the County Council. I'm also going to give her the clicker because I've decided I need a training course on back and next. Over to you.
Thank you.
Starts with me. So next slide. So in 2023, we did lots of business engagement. We worked with the Chamber on the quarterly economic survey, and we kind of took the kind of line of, well, let's kind of try and scoop this into one place. And what does that tell us? And one of the biggest challenges was around, the businesses were telling us, was around workforce challenges. And sort of when we looked at that, we were like, well, actually, right, we've got to start thinking about how do we kind of, A, keep the things that we are doing, but B, look at how we change our tack. And therefore, this session's about looking at what we are doing and getting some feedback from you. So where are we today? Currently, there's quite a low level of unemployment. We obviously saw a spike during COVID and after COVID, but that has come back down. However, as Robin alluded, although youth unemployment is the sort of area that we are looking at, because that's the bit that hasn't come down as fast as perhaps the kind of claimant count level wider. And we know that 1 in 3 in the workforce are over 50. Which kind of makes people go, oh, you know, hang on a minute. And that means we have to kind of look at inspiring our younger generation to live, grow up and work in Worcestershire. Job vacancies. So after we came out of the pandemic, there was the big resignation. People kind of reviewed what they were doing. And we saw vacancies in Worcestershire go to about 10,000. And businesses were coming to us saying, how do you help me? What am I doing? And they were doing the same things that they were doing perhaps prior to the pandemic, where it was get an advert ready, get it online, and hoping that a list of candidates would come through the door. And we kind of know what didn't happen. But we've seen that peak go away. Also, demand and supply, we're always trying to balance the kind of skills piece with the demand from businesses. And how does that work with our training providers? How does it work in terms of those people who are looking for work, and how do we kind of fill those vacancies and trying to get that right? And I know, because we kind of also track the Chamber Quarterly Economic Survey, where that figure of, is it difficult to recruit? We've actually seen that peak and come down as well, but it's still high. It's still at 50%. So, Worcestershire, no different than many shire counties, very few big employers, a sort of triangle that bottoms out with lots of small micro businesses doing great work, which also means their time and capacity to kind of engage and perhaps think, certainly 2035 gets really hard. So we have to work and engage with our businesses to kind of engage them and getting them to think differently. Also, when we then look kind of at that young people coming through the system in year 7, which Judy's going to tell me how old that would be because...
You're at age 8.
Age 8. So we've got an extra 1,000 young people in Worcestershire.
Sorry, age 11.
Age 11.
I got my sons the wrong way round.
We'll edit that bit out. So we've got an extra 1,000 young people coming through the system. Therefore, if we don't get the system right now in terms of giving them careers, opportunities, and actually where they can work in Worcestershire, they're going to move outside the county and they're not going to come back. So we've really got to work hard now on the careers and the schools piece to actually get that right for 5 years hence. And currently there's a 28% disability employment gap, which is if you've got a declared disability, you're less likely to be in work. And actually, when we think about that, we then say, well, there's a whole pool of talent there that employers currently are not tapping. And we really need to work harder in terms of our inclusivity. And we say, well, how are we going to do that? And I think that's one of the things that we're kind of hoping to give you a few ideas, but we also want your feedback on. And then we're starting to see that kind of skills need change. You know, nearly every sector comes back and talks to us about the digital skills of the workforce. And every sector is starting to talk to us about the sustainability and the green agenda and how they're moving business. And it's their customer base that's driving that, and equally, how people are skilling up. So, our focus has always been on young people. It's been around the business schools conversation and that cohort. Because if I had £1 for every time an employer went, the young people today, they're never ready for the world of work. Young people, they've got a different mindset. They've got different values. And I always think, I wonder if the generation before that was saying that, and the generation before that, and they probably saying about my generation. So you kind of think, hang on a minute, this can't be right. We've got to invest in those young people to stop them, even if they are going to leave to university, that they can see a career path back in the county. We've got an ageing workforce. If we just let the market run, we can see the challenge we're going to have in terms of recruitment and people. And it's not like there's a huge pool of unemployment out there that we can bring in. So we've got to think about, and we've got to encourage businesses to kind of think about how they're going to do that. Click.
It's me. It's me. I didn't fall up the stairs, so I've done better than last time. But I did obviously mess up the age, so apologies for that. When we started looking at the young people agenda, we were looking at how do we encourage young people to remain here in the county? How do we point out to them the opportunities that we have in our employers and the industries that we have here in Worcestershire? And in 2018, the DfE published, the Department for Education, published some very stark data. On my notes, it says cold and wet data, but I'm not going to say that. Stark data. And that said that in terms of our careers education and our levels of employer engagement in education, we're in the bottom 3 of all areas. And this is an issue. It's not just an issue because actually our young people know very little about our employers here in the county and therefore aren't likely to choose our industries and our employers. But also what we know is that if a young person has 4 or more encounters with an employer over the lifetime of their schooling, it reduces their chance of not being in education, not being in employment later in life by 86%. So not having that engagement is clearly an issue. Well, also, during the pandemic, youth unemployment in Worcestershire rose quite dramatically to levels of 9.4%, which obviously in itself was a concern. There were a number of reasons for this, not least that we were all so busy trying to run our businesses and manage the COVID pandemic that naturally perhaps recruiting young people into our business wasn't our priority. We also saw a number of issues in terms of the advice and guidance that young people were able to access during that period, and also the support from Job Centre Plus, etc. So this meant that we had these high levels of youth unemployment, which I'm glad to say have started to come down, but we did have some of our most deprived wards reaching unseen levels in Worcestershire of 12%. So just going to talk you through a couple of the programmes that the LEP has been running over the last 5 years. So the first one particularly is our Careers and Enterprise Company programme that we call Inspiring Worcestershire. So I'm sure that many of you will know about this programme. It's a programme that we run with the Department for Education, and it's all about improving the quality of careers education within our schools within our educational establishments. So we work with every school, so 62 educational establishments, every school, every further education college, every special educational needs school as well, to support them to improve the careers planning that they have within their environments. But more than that, it's actually about, as Paul said, it's about Worcestershire. It's about ensuring that those young people are getting engagement from Worcestershire employers. They're getting messages about the industries of Worcestershire and the industry of Worcestershire and the employment opportunities within Worcestershire. I mean, this is no mean feat. In that cohort every year, you have 40,000 young people. So we need to be influencing them as much as possible and continuing that work. Alongside that, we run our Worcestershire Apprenticeships brand. So Worcestershire Apprenticeships started out very much as a helpline to support young people to access apprenticeships and to understand more information about apprenticeships. We started that brand with that helpline 10 years ago, and actually now that's a comprehensive programme of events but also positive engagement directly through schools. Last year we spoke to 20,000 young people and talked to them about the opportunities that apprenticeships can provide. We also, during the pandemic, started our Careers Worcestershire brand. Careers Worcestershire is aimed to support 16 to 24-year-olds who are seeking work or who need help and advice. They might be in college, they might be in school, but they need some support to move to their next phase. This brand started off pretty much as a helpline again. We knew that during the pandemic, schools actually weren't able to provide a lot of that careers advice, didn't have that access. So again, we started this support helpline to be able to help them. This has evolved dramatically. So we now work with the Department for Work and Pensions here in Worcester. We have a youth hub, and our youth hub continues to keep those numbers. As Robin said, they are lower than the average because of that work that's going on, that intensive piece. And that programme's due to expand. So in April this year, working with the district councils, we will be expanding that programme to every district in Worcestershire with fixed drop-in points, not just in Worcester, but also in Redditch, where youth unemployment, unfortunately, at the moment is growing. And hopefully we'll be moving that into Kidderminster soon. So I'm going to bring all of these up. Where are we now? So quite simply, as I've said already, youth unemployment is being held to lower levels, which is really positive. There are some increases and there are some areas. There's always more work to be done on this, and we do need to continue to do that. But I think the real positive messages are that in our careers programme, we've gone from the very bottom, from being in the bottom 3 to the top 3. And actually, as a LEP, we are known as a LEP that has travelled the most distance. We are consistently in the top 3 in the country in terms of performance on that programme. We have a significant number of employers working with us. We always need more, but we have a significant number of employers working with us who are supporting that agenda. And as it says, 92% of students last year received employer encounters from who are in year 7 to year 13. I was just checking that. But also 80% of students, where relevant, received work experience. And again, that's really positive. That's something we will always look to build upon. We want that to be better. The challenge in this is actually that it's not the same people. You can't build it and walk away. You've got to keep the momentum going. So we've got to keep those messages going into our educational establishments. We've got to keep employers working with them. Alongside that, we have a few developments in that area as well. So we are actually, the government's agenda is to move down into primary. That's not yet on the list for Worcestershire, but we've started that already. So we do deliver a competition called the Primary STEM Challenge. There's a little photo of it here. And our Primary STEM Challenge competition, we deliver to years 4 and 5, years 8, so age 8 and 9. And that primary STEM competition is about pointing out STEM skills to young people, so science, technology, engineering, maths skills around a local challenge. This year we're doing it around moving a bridge over the road, as they did on the bypass around Worcester. But we've always done it about local challenges, so it's reinforced. When we first did this 5 years ago, we had 10 schools in Worcester that took part. This year, so far, we have 85. So again, a really positive piece of work. We continue our events programme. So we continue to celebrate the success of our apprenticeships, for instance, but we also continue our skills show programme, which Robin mentioned. So in March this year, we will have a 2-day event at Six Ways, and that currently has about 3,500 students from the county booked to attend, to visit employers and to talk about their next steps.
So we've given you some stats, facts, and from the evidence base. We've given you some of the work that we're doing, but I suppose it'd be good now to get a feel for what do businesses need to consider in the current climate, and whether, I think Laura Hewitt may be able to give us a view from the sort of recruitment side. Stand up, if you can.
So in terms of kind of attracting skills, that's what you're asking?
Yes.
So I guess, yeah, you know, as Gary said, vacancy numbers are lower than they were over the last 12 months, so it's not quite as hard to find people as it has been, but they're still high, vacancy numbers are still higher than they were before COVID, so it's still a really competitive market. So I guess top 3 things that candidates are looking for and employees are looking for are pay and benefits, so that's the first thing, that's got to be right. And we have the lovely salary and benefits report that we did with the Chamber of Commerce that you can get your hands on. There might be some copies here. If you want to benchmark, really important to benchmark both your internal staff as well as when you're recruiting, so you don't lose people. Second thing is work-life balance. People are really wanting work-life balance. So we're actually seeing a move away from hybrid working, where employers are wanting people back in the office. So it's just making sure we have that balance, because there's kind of like a bit of friction there where people want to be still working from home, but everyone's being dragged back into the office. Just considering that. Flexible working, though, we are seeing a real increase in flexible working still, which is great. It's kind of a cultural shift from kind of that, I guess, managing working hours, clocking in, clocking out, to managing outputs. So that's, I think, a really great positive thing that we can be looking at, and it's really attractive. And the final thing is really focusing on your culture and your purpose as a business, so being values-led, that sustainability piece is really attractive too.
Thank you, Laura. That was great. And probably a view from right from the back. Nick, I know you're in the same sector. What do you think in terms of that business climate?
Yes, well, I fully agree. The employer brand's really important. Attraction's really important. What you talked about earlier about when you said, I'm sure our generation said exactly the same thing, they did. So let's find out what the youngsters want. Let's find out what they're attracted to. But more importantly, you've got to be able to articulate your employee value proposition. What's your culture? What's your business? What does it mean to work in your organisation? The second thing is you've really got to then build on your employer brand. What's the perception of your brand with youngsters? What's your perception of your brand in comparison to your competitors? If you can't articulate that, then how are you going to attract people? And I think the last thing Judy said, we've all got like a massive responsibility to engage with these youngsters. How many people are enterprise advisors in your organisations? How many times are you giving people work experience in your business? People that come to university and then they're going to other cities. We need to keep hold of this talent. Or when people are going to other universities that are from Worcester, we need to bring them back to Worcester. So instead of moaning about it, we need to kind of work. If you can't articulate your employee value proposition, if you can't articulate your employer brand, you've got a genuine challenge with attraction, and that's the first thing you need to do. And then there's sectors as well, So it's tech, AI, STEM, they're kind of attractive sectors. You've got to make sure some of the manufacturing isn't attractive to some of the youngsters anymore, so you've got to make those attractive. You've got to find out how you can make them attractive, and you can bring those people in. So instead of moaning about it every 5 minutes, frankly. So engaging with people like you, it's engaging with people like Baxter Williams. Find out how to attract those people.
Thank you.
I can stay for another 10 minutes if you want.
Timing. So thank you for those 2 views. That was really helpful. We're now going to really test the Slido, because it's about time we did, isn't it, really? So using your Slido app that you kind of logged into, you're now thinking, oh my God, how does this work again? So I'll give it a bit of time. But we've got a question for you around what do you think is the biggest skills need that you have in your business now?
Yeah.
And I'm holding my breath, hoping this works.
See if the technology works.
Obviously, if you're online, that question and the Slido has come up on your screen. Oh, bit of movement.
Darren will be happy.
So what we've got there is the digital skills, clearly coming strongly through that. Leadership and management going up and sort of down, but again, the leadership of the business community and how that works. Others, and I suspect that is the kind of technical skill piece that that's been identified there, the real specialism in that sector. And then you start to see some of the other functions. So those are the skills needs now. We'll perhaps come back to that around how we think. So what you're probably also thinking is, well, where's the strategy and where's the plan? Oh, whoops.
So there is a strategy. So within skills, we've always had a strategy within the local enterprise partnership. So we had our own strategy in 2021 that we reformatted in 22 called the Local Skills Report. But more recently, we've worked with the Chamber of Commerce and the Department for Education to look at the Local Skills Improvement Plan. So this was started in 2022, and last year the Chamber, working with the Growth Hub, consulted with over 450 Worcestershire employers. We have Rob here, so I'm hoping someone's going to whiz him over a mic, and he's going to tell us about the progress.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you, Rob. Do you want to go back?
Yeah, let's go.
So on that note, that leads very nicely into my next Slido question, which, oh, it's not working. It's not working. Oh, there we go. So in the room, tell me how many of you, in the room and online, tell me how many of you actually have a workforce plan?
Oh,
Oh.
it's nearly a Brexit split.
I was hoping yes would be 57%, to be honest.
Okay, so you can see that even in the room and those online, we've really got a split about those people who are really planning for their workforce, taking that either that 50 plus or that young person inspiration piece and really thinking about it, 50% on there. And I would probably say you guys are really engaged in some of this stuff and probably have known what we were talking about. The businesses out there who are kind of don't know, I suspect that number of haven't got a workforce plan will be at least 80-20. And that really then gives us a challenge. But the other bit we're really keen to know, so the next question for you on that poll.
Oh, technology. When was it last refreshed? So for those of you that have a plan, when did you last refresh it?
Well, again, that's settling there. It's probably good to see that a number of our employers are kind of thinking about that. And maybe that's because of where we are in the cycle. People are starting to think, actually, now the pandemic piece has kind of settled. Right, okay, now we need to think about that. Obviously, there's that 50% who haven't got a plan. So that sort of hasn't been refreshed, don't know. You can see that piece. Others going further back. And I suppose this then comes back down to how hard is this to kind of keep on top of, and I suppose there's the challenge that we recognise.
So in terms of workforce planning, for those of you that don't know exactly what it is, the Chartered Institute of Personnel Development define workforce planning as a core business process which aligns changing organisational needs with your people strategy. So quite simply, it's a forward view. It's delivering you in your business the skills and the people you need when you need them. If you don't have a workforce plan, you are being incredibly reactive. You are subject to what you find in the labour market. You don't have a plan, essentially. And you will find, as Rob said, a number of businesses that are in that position. For all the reasons that Rob mentioned, they are really challenging to write. It's really hard to think forward and to think, actually, what am I going to need when I'm going to need it? No, not necessarily being 100% with what the technological advances will be and therefore what skills that might require me to have. They need a lot of time, they need a lot of thought. And again, a lot of small businesses in Worcestershire, so actually they don't have that time and they probably aren't thinking that far forward. And there are always, as I've said, a lot of unknowns in this process, but there are also a lot of knowns. You know things about your business. We've told you today, 1 in 3 people in Worcestershire's labour market is over 50. You have a number of those people in your workforce. And actually, so what you know about that person is that they will retire. So what are you doing to plan for that retirement? A number of our businesses successfully use apprenticeships as a method to kind of fill that void, to continue to benefit from understanding that knowledge and those skills that that person has by passing them on through an apprenticeship scheme to an apprentice. So one such employer that does that really well in our county is uses apprenticeships very well as a succession tool is Southco Manufacturing. And we spent some time last year with Southco. So let's hear from them. Oh, I missed that slide.
Well, we're celebrating 40 years. It's important for many reasons. It emphasises the strength in the organisation, the ability to be so diverse, cover a wide range of markets. Southco really got on board with the apprenticeship scheme when we started. The reason apprenticeships are so important is it really helps people understand the culture in the company, and culture is really important to us. When people come in early at the apprenticeship level, they can really sense that. And when they then progress through the organisation, they can really carry that forward. And I think that's why it's so important to have apprentices in the company.
In terms of Southco's future workforce, apprenticeships are a big part of our strategy. The talent market out there right now is very, very tight. We don't have huge amounts of candidates that are out there at the moment that are just queuing up to want our jobs. That's why apprenticeships are a vital part of our strategy. I think it's vital that you can take young people in an early age and really show them what that career path is that they want. You know, I've met many over the time as an enterprise advisor that don't really know what they want to do. That's tough. At 16, you don't know what you want to do. And I think an apprenticeship is such a fantastic route to really help you make that decision. Having those young people with us, you know, you can grow them into your own culture, you can grow them into learning and understanding the business. And therefore, I think that loyalty then remains in terms of staying with the organisation as well. Further on, many of our apprentices, just like myself, have been here for some time because they've continued with the organisation, because they've continued to develop and found that role that's right for them.
I used to be the young person in the organisation. 28 years ago now, I've been in the company. We need young people coming through to bring fresh ideas, to challenge us, and we need those people to bring that energy, that drive, that passion, enthusiasm. They'll get a lot from those people that have been in the company a long time, but they will also bring a lot.
A big thank you to Southco. I feel that when I sold the video to Emma, who's sat at the front of the room, I suggested to her it would only ever be shown once. So I probably owe her quite a lot of chocolate at this point. But as we have Emma here today, so Emma, can you tell us, you know, what are the benefits to Southco of the apprenticeship programme?
Microphone. For Southco, as you probably saw on the video there, we are a manufacturing engineering company. So, you know, manufacturing is always tough to sell to young people. It's not that sexy, exciting job that when you're 16 you think, oh, I want to be a tool maker. Most of them don't even know what tool makers are. And for us, you know, recruiting those more, what I'd call traditional positions, your tool makers, your maintenance engineers, your manufacturing engineers, it has always been a lot tougher for us as we move further. You know, back 25 years ago, it was nowhere near as difficult as it is today. So we have always, as part of our workforce planning, had apprentices as top priority for us. It's a vital part of our succession. It's a vital part of, you know, of how we recruit. So we have now apprentices, not just within the factory roles, we now have apprentices throughout the business. So we have apprentices within our finance team, within our IT team, within our customer service team. And that's especially vital for us because we need languages. And people don't necessarily think languages, engineering, manufacturing, but it's a big part of our business as well. So apprentices have really, really helped us with that. You didn't get to see some of the apprentices talk on that. The video is a little bit longer. But some of the apprentices do talk through their career in Southco. And we've got one guy, Matt, he would have spoken there. He's been with us for 9 years, started as an apprentice, done his degree apprenticeship as well now. So they've been able to do that. And we're very proud of the fact that our turnover is very low, and more than 80% of our apprentices stay with us and have been with us for many, many years. And it's something that we'll continue to do because apprenticeships are so important to us.
Thank you, Emma. As you mentioned that, I'm going to ask you to pass the mic to Kira. So Kira Murphy is from Foster's Facilities Management, and Kira actually won our Worcestershire Apprenticeships Hire Apprentice of the Year last year. So well done to Kira. She is a shining beacon for apprenticeships. But Kira, can you tell us, how has your apprenticeship affected you personally, and actually what are the benefits to you of doing your apprenticeship?
I think the benefits are massive. I left school at 16, didn't have a clue what I wanted to do. I applied for an apprenticeship because I thought university probably wasn't the route, didn't want to go for A-levels. 8 years later, I'm still at the same company. I've done general business all the way through to my human resources degree equivalent. And yeah, it's really beneficial. I've got the skills, the knowledge and the experience, and my loyalty to the business. The 8 years, I have no intention of leaving. I think it's brilliant, and I'd love for more people to be passionate about it. So yeah.
Thank you very much. Which leads us on to our next question. So your Slido next question is around apprenticeships. So do you use apprenticeships in your business? So I'm going to actually pick on Emily Hyde as well. So Emily is here. She's from Citizen Communications, and she's going to tell us a little bit about how they use them in their business.
So we've got 2 apprentices, and there's only 12 of us in the business, 2 of which are actually apprentices. They're in our digital marketing department, so obviously improving all those digital skills and everything like that. Georgia, one of them, she just won the degree level apprentice award at the same awards evening. So yeah, we're thrilled to have them on board, and they're really helpful at getting that experience in younger as well, because obviously we know that the workforce is, the age is growing, and it is getting, because we're obviously all working longer now as well, but having those younger people involved in the business is brilliant, because all these digital skills are those sort of areas that they know so much more about, and they do it day in, day out. And they've grown our business, so we now actually provide more social media support to business. So we're a marketing agency. We provide so many more social media retainers to companies around the country, to be honest with you. So yeah, they've been brilliant in growing that service, and it's just going to get even better and better, to be honest. So it's given us another string to our bow, and it's brilliant. So yeah.
Thank you, Emily. Clicking, it's not one of things. Oh dear. So, this is definitely a Slido question. So, if you have recruited in the last 3 months on a scale of 1 to 5, how did you find it? 1 being very difficult and 5 being very easy.
Nope, still a bit of movement there. So, as you can see, nearly back to no side, and it moved again. So that bottom end, people are still finding it hard to recruit, at 8% being really hard, and 30% there, but sort of difficult. In the middle is that thing, and I suppose this does depend on role, depends on lots of factors. But nevertheless, if businesses are finding it difficult to recruit, and if we get into then it was simple, but I think it does really depend on that role. And again, some of the things that Laura was picking up and Nick was picking up around, if you're out there as a business with your brand, there is now something called Glassdoor, where you can get those former employees or current employees kind of looking at your recruitment process and kind of communicating in a TripAdvisor kind of way. So it is really important to think about back to those kind of workforce planning methods around how you communicate that and your opportunities as a business.
But you also need to explore new markets. So we told you about the disability employment gap, and we've been focused on this at the LEP since earlier last year. So, as Laura said, it's clear that at the moment recruitment is very challenging, and what we are suggesting is that this is the time to consider being more inclusive in your recruitment. I'm sure none of us in this room would say that we are deliberately not being inclusive. However, we are challenging you to be proactively inclusive. We know there are a number of benefits from employing inclusively, but also employing people who have health conditions. We know that this will give you access to a greater pool of candidates. It's not about widening a corridor, as people seem to think it is. Actually, often it's a very small adjustment. There are proven from this group lower rates of absence in businesses, but also improvement in attendance generally across the business. It improves overall staff morale because actually everyone in your business starts to look at the business slightly differently and the culture within the business slightly differently. And it will improve your retention of staff within your business as well. We in the LEP define that inclusive employment as ensuring that everyone has a fair and equal opportunity for all candidates throughout the recruitment process, but also throughout their employment. Some employers will absolutely see this as a bridge too far, and we understand that. But my challenge to you is that in the UK right now, 1 in 5 people is diagnosed with some form of neurodivergency. So that means that people have autism, ADHD, dyscalculia, dyspraxia, dyslexia. I'm very dyspraxic. I didn't fall up the stairs though, so that was good. We have them in our workforce already. That's the message. You have them. You're already making adjustments. You possibly just don't realise that you are. Inclusive practices will also help you with your current staff, where you have staff that are suddenly diagnosed or have a sudden onset of a health condition. Actually, being more inclusive and understanding how you work better with this group will help you to return those people back to work, but also to keep that talent in your business for as long as you possibly can. It's about focusing on what those individuals can do and not what they can't. So, question on Slido is, on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being we have no inclusive practices, and 5 being we have a very structured approach towards inclusive employment. How inclusive do you feel that you are within your workforce?
Again, it's moving around, so I'm going to give it a moment just to settle. You can see there's quite a spread for those of you in the room and online in terms of that. I mean, it's good to see that probably above the natural average, in terms of a 4. But I think also there is some work to do at that kind of bottom end. And about, if we're back into that, it's difficult to recruit, but also we've kind of got practices that, again, not deliberately, but we're excluding people or making people or thinking it's going to be too difficult. Then those are some of the things we've kind of got to get over. And we've kind of got to work with both employers, candidates, training providers, and young people themselves to kind of make this a kind of better picture than we've got now.
So we are asking you today to join the change, and we are launching our new programme, Inclusive Worcestershire Leaders. So Inclusive Worcestershire Leaders is designed to celebrate the 23%. So when I find out who you all are, I will be chasing you. But it's about being beacons in inclusivity. It's about recognising the great practice that you're doing. Having this badge will support you in your recruitment practices, because actually it is known that people with health conditions look for organisations that are proactively inclusive. And with that in mind, we actually have our first 2 inclusive businesses in the room, she hopes. So I'm going to ask the lovely Phil Newton, who is from PSE, to come up and talk to us about his inclusive journey. So Phil, if you can tell us about your journey with Chris, your head of data, and give us a bit about your experience of that process.
Of course, yeah. So we're a marketing agency, been going for about 28 years, and the journey for this inclusivity sort of started for us about 3 years ago. We were having to diversify what we were doing as a business and offer a lot more services and skills to our clients. One of those skills was data. We were lucky enough through the standard interview process to meet a guy called Chris, who stood out from day one, just as personality, very, very capable of doing the job. Shortly after we offered him the position, he shared that he'd just been diagnosed with autism and OCD, and was asking the question of, do we still want to employ him? I found it a bit strange, a little bit of a strange question. Why are you asking that? You're there, you're the right person for the job. Chris has taken us on a journey really now for the last 3 years. He's brought something to the business that wouldn't be there. I think when I first mentioned him to Judy, it was sort of, I was saying his autism and OCD is actually a superpower for what we need. It's not a weakness. From an employer's point of view, the benefit and what we can offer to our clients and how quickly we've been able to ramp that channel up is huge. And the adjustments we have to make to cater for that are so small. I would probably suggest smaller than what you would class as a normal employee. I don't believe we've been going 28 years. There's no such thing as a normal employee. Everyone's got different needs, different requirements. They're comfortable doing certain things. I'm not comfortable stood up here. That's one of them. But we're all comfortable. We all want to do different stuff. So the adjustments with Chris, it's stuff like flexible working, challenges going face-to-face with clients. So we just facilitate video calls. And really one of the things came out, it's time with us as the owners, to be able to have our ear and listen to what we're doing and feel like he's being heard and we're making adjustments, not just for him. He's massively charitable, so he's sort of always pushing that agenda with us as well to make that happen. But what we've seen from Chris, his willingness and openness to talk about his own experience, which is why I'm talking about it, I obviously wouldn't if it was confidential, but his willingness to talk about that is opening wider conversations within the business. So in the last 3 years, we're becoming so open as a business. It's almost walking into your house. So if someone's feeling a little anxious one day, they're not sitting there trying to bottle it up or think about something else. They're sharing that out with other people. That's becoming really, really powerful. People with other needs, or sort of you would class as slightly more diverse, they're seeking us out now to want to work with us. And for me, for our clients, the more diverse we are as a business, the better service we're giving to our client. The clients don't want 20 of me, they really, really don't. What they want is 20 people, completely different viewpoints with different angles to be able to push that on. And so I would say I've sort of fallen into this journey, but it's a journey I'm really, really enjoying. I think it's really great. It's lovely to be able to help someone like Chris, fantastically loyal employee. But every employee we bring on from now on, and everyone who's in the team already, we're really, really pushing that on and growing that up. So so as an employer, please don't be scared of it. It's no different to recruiting a standard person. Just listen, communicate, be willing to change, be willing to adapt. Sharing with the team how that happens has been a big part of it. So we haven't got that, why can he work from home and I can't work from home, and why has he got this and why is that happening? Wider communication of what's going on, and the team being willing to share, as well as, I suppose, me being willing to share what goes on. So, but don't be afraid of it.
Thank you. We'd like to award you your certificate of recognition for your inclusive Worcestershire leaders.
Okay, back to probably one of the favourite questions that the skills team get. which is around employers tell us that young people aren't ready for work. So we have to throw it in there, don't we? So come on then, 1 being not very reflective and 5 being perfect inductees. It might take a little. Right, the slide's moving again. Ooh. Just as I go to launch, it moves all the time. Right, okay. Average score of 3, so I think people have gone for the middle, probably hearing our presentation, they've kind of took a step back and gone, oh yeah, actually, they're young people today, they're not that bad, so I could approach one maybe.
Got a lot of educators in the room too.
Yeah. Judy, 3?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I agree, to be honest. Do I think young people are prepared well for the world of work? My answer for this is actually I think they are, in the main, I do. I believe, having worked with further education and higher education and schools for many, many years, they do a significant amount to ensure that young people are ready for the world of work. I think there is a bit of fault on both sides, if I'm honest. Of course, there's always more that we can do in the education sector, but I also think I would ask, when was the last time you reviewed your induction process? So there is a difference between an induction process that's required for me coming into your organisation and a young person. Think about your first job. Think about the time when you started. I remember mine very vividly. I remember at 18, the first job I had. I remember particularly some individuals within that company who went over and above to make sure that I settled well into that company. And I think actually we as employers have lost elements of that. So I'd ask you to dust off your induction process and have a real look at it. I'm also going to ask Kat Lewis, who is the principal from Kidderminster College, who is at the back, to just tell us a little bit about what they do at Kidderminster with their NCG guarantee.
Thank you, Judy. And good morning, everyone. It's really lovely to be here. I'm actually quite heartened by those results because I was sat there kind of getting smaller and smaller thinking, is everybody going to say that young people are really not ready for work when actually that is our core business? So Kidderminster College is part of a large national college group, NCG. We've got 7 colleges across England. And within the work that we do obviously have conversations with employers where we are talking about it's a skills deficit for young people. So what we've done within the NCG guarantee is pull together a comprehensive range of enhancement activities that sit both within and outside the main curriculum qualifications. It consists of 5 separate badges. So we have an enterprise badge, an employability badge, a community badge, a digital literacy badge, and also a mental fitness badge. And that last one actually is really, really important, especially off the back of COVID, because we know that young people do struggle to develop the levels of resilience that they need. So what we do within that is we track activity. We ask young people to reflect on the knowledge, skills and behaviour that they're developing. And by the end of an academic year, they are able to achieve a range of certificates that they can build a portfolio from. And what that does, it enables them to actually fully articulate what they've done at college, their capabilities, their potential value to employers. And also, I think it's really important to say that's not the end of the journey. You know, I'd really like to congratulate companies like Southco and Foster's who are picking up the baton at that point and continuing that journey of development for those young people in making sure that they have everything that they need in order to be successful in the future.
Thank you, Kat.
Thanks.
So, KSBs, there's always a 3-letter acronym, isn't there? Just to keep us on our toes, and equally, surely there's somebody in the room thinking, oh, that's different in my sector. But the knowledge, go on then, Jude, tell us the knowledge.
So the knowledge is the bit that you learn. So the learning. So what you learn in college, in school, in university, on a training course, that's the knowledge. The skills are how you apply that knowledge. So how do you apply that knowledge to your role? And then the behaviours are the bit that sits around that says, yes, I've got great digital skills, but actually, am I good at managing my time? Can I communicate? Am I resilient? Am I assertive? That's what the KSBs are. And that's a term you will hear in the education piece. It's certainly a term that the Local Skills Improvement Plan is very focused on.
And what we're proposing that we start to do over the next 6 to 12 months is really start to get employers to start to think about those knowledge, skills and behaviours, building on that local skills improvement plan, but also having that conversation about workforce planning. So it's another Slido question, but this is slightly different because I'm going to give you a bit longer because I want you, perhaps to the person sat next to you, to kind of have a look at these next kind of adaptations and think about which are the top 5. And then what I want you to do on your Slido app, once you've had that conversation for a minute or so, is literally put your top 5 into the Slido app. So, have a conversation with the person next to you. What do you think?
Okay.
Okay.
How are we doing? There's a lot of passion.
Right, okay, start to get your top 5 into the Slido, please.
Okay.
Right.
What are we seeing?
What are we seeing? It's back to that thing. As soon as I start to go, yeah, oh no, it's moved. I think what's really interesting for us is you can see that all of those characteristics are really important. But, you know, those top 5 of positive attitude, work ethic, initiative, teamwork, and integrity, those are things that we really then need to work with our training providers and our schools and our education establishments to talk to our young people about actually how they demonstrate these. Because what we know is they've got all this stuff, but they're communicating it. And certainly, yeah, we know when I think back, I could never talk about, you know, that kind of, well, equally, how have I worked as a team? And yet there were loads of examples, either in my school career, equally in my early career, that actually I had to communicate. But communicating that, I didn't really understand perhaps an activity, a project base, that I could never kind of put that into a work team scenario. And I think those are some of the things that we're looking at in terms of how we communicate that and how we get employers to really emphasise some of those. So whether those are really the top 5, I'm kind of up for debate, really. And I think that's part of this conversation as we go forward, is how do we instill those things in the people that you're looking to employ and recruit?
So next steps with this, we're going to do a bit of work with the LSIP groupings to kind of look at how they feel about probably the top 10 that's been selected today, to come up with our kind of top so many, and we will present that as employer standards. We're going to run a bit of a pilot, so we're going to go to one of our schools and talk to their year 10s and see how they feel they map against these, and then challenge that school to be able to look at how they improve those skills for those young people. But also we're going to work with our FE and HE sector to reinforce those within their curriculum, and to ensure that young people can articulate, following their courses, what they've learned and how they match those standards. I'd also say, as an employer, now we've taught you about knowledge, skills and behaviours, you know, this is part of your workforce planning, so it's very much something you could look at within your own workforce as well. If this is your top 5, do your workforce have this? And if they don't, what are you going to do about that? Can you upskill them? We talked a lot today about workforce planning, and I feel getting this right in Worcestershire is really key for us. It's key for us as educational establishments to be able to provide the skills that you need and the people that you need at the point that you need them. So for that reason, we are bringing out this year our workforce planning diagnostic tool. So keep an eye out for that. It will be out very soon, and we'll make sure that you all have information on how you can use that.
So,
And then
we need your help. It's very easy for us to either stand at the front or the team to engage the businesses, but actually we need you guys to come to us in a sense and help us. We are always looking for employers, whether that's you as the manager owner or equally part of your team. I always say I should never be in front of a kind of school group because, let's be honest, grey, middle-aged man, probably not a great kind of piece. So our apprentices and how they kind of communicate to those young people is definitely a better way than me. So we're looking at how you can pledge your support. We want you to become an inclusive leader, and I'm sure the example that we gave you will inspire, certainly inspired me to think about what we're doing, even as in our own organisation, to how we're recruiting, and I'm sure you've taken that away. The workforce needs, listen out for the Growth Hub, who are coming on the third session, as to how they can help you with that workforce planning and the opportunities that are there. And then that sort of workforce planning diagnostic is the bit of the conversation that we want next with the business community. So,
on your tables, you will have your pledge cards, but I'm also going to raise Matt and Alicia, who stood at the back of the room. So if you wish to have a conversation about working in educational establishments, workforce planning, or being an inclusive employer, they'll be delighted, as will I, to keep that conversation going. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.